I want to thank the EABC for the organization. The theme for this roundtable is boosting intra-EAC trade and investment, unlocking barriers and leveraging opportunities. It's a big phrase. I'm not sure what it means, but I hope at the end of the day, we will unlock barriers and leverage opportunities. The EAC heads of state during the high-level retreat on the Common Market Protocol held in July 2022 reiterated their commitment to EAC integration and set a target of increasing intra-EAC trade to 40% by 2030. We are making slow progress towards this target. However, we need concerted efforts. Engagements such as this one provide us with an opportunity and a platform on the challenges and to chart a way forward to improve the business environment and increase intra-EAC trade. For the sustainable development and attainment of the EAC vision, the EAC acknowledges the importance of the private sector as an important partner to the integration process. This is also enshrined in the treaty establishing us under Article 7 that provides for private sector-led and market-driven growth. Therefore, we are obligated as partners to foster an enabling environment for the community's sustainable economic growth. This can easily be achieved when there is deliberate and honest drive to provide a platform for dialogue between the public and the private sector. Your presence here demonstrates your sustained commitment and confidence in doing business in the EAC region. I wish to assure you of my commitment to support the sector in the journey for increased trade and investments aimed at strengthening our competitiveness, improving the welfare of our citizens. Allow me then to provide highlights of progress in the integration agenda with specific focus on issues that are critical for the private sector. Trade and customs. Ladies and gentlemen, over the years, the EAC trade environment has improved, although we recognize that there are challenges. In addition to hard infrastructure such as the one-stop border post, we have also embarked on soft infrastructure addressing the trade environment through digitization process. The community has made significant strides, including but not limited to streamlining clearing processes under the single customs territory. A centralized platform has been implemented to facilitate real-time exchange of customs and trade data, automating all aspects of the priority clearance of the complainant traders. We are making efforts towards increased awareness to accommodate MSMEs in the regional compliant trader program. This has facilitated reduced fraud and delays in clearance. Implementation of non-intrusive verification through a drive-through cargo scanners, interfacing electronic cargo tracking systems to include Burundi and South Sudan in the RECs, sharing of cargo scanner images among revenue authorities, and installing smart gates at key borders and posts. Operationalization of the e-tariff toolkit to improve private sector access to the EAC tariff structure and information, as well as administration of duty remissions and facilitation of the electronic issuance of rules of origin certificates. All these digital interventions are aimed at enhancing trade facilitation and transparency. Through the available mechanisms for elimination of NTBs, so far 10 NTBs remain pending and resolution is at different levels. Cumulatively, 274 NTBs have been resolved since 2007, but the EAC has also developed and is operationalizing the NTB app to ease the reporting of NTBs. Together with SADC and COMESA, the tripartite free trade agreement, and Vice Chair, you did allude to this, came into force on 25th July 2024, following the deposit of the 14th instrument of ratification. I will tell you that we will not take another 25 years for this to take effect, and that indeed trade is now operational within this tripartite agreement. We are aware that NTBs are caused by what to me is where we need to find a balance. When do we stop pursuing national interests for regional benefits? I keep saying the point of equilibrium will be our sweet spot. As long as we continue to pursue protectionism, and it's here, it's the people in this room who move very fast and whisper and say, no, 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 you cannot agree to that one, put a stay, no, you cannot agree to that one, lengthen the bureaucratic red tape, no, we cannot agree to that one, don't agree to standardize, no, hold off a little bit on the mutual recognition agreement. Until we are aware, until we are having statements such as, buy utopia, sell utopia. I will not use a country. Buy utopia, build utopia. Until we replace that word there and say, buy jumuiya, build jumuiya, then we are not going to be heading anywhere. And I've reflected on these matters a lot. Believe you me, in those 2 months I've been reading a lot. And I really think that the answer lies within the private sector. It is the wearer of the shoe who knows where it pinches. The lady there, she moved, she's from Isuzu, and she wants to tell us how to sell trucks from Kenya to other parts. It's only, and there she comes, it's only her who can tell us where is it pinching. And before I move on to this, I'd like to frame this conversation this way. The leadership is here. The business people across the partner states have access to the highest offices. That's without a fact. Politics and money are not strange bedfellows. You interact a lot, you engage a lot, you even do business together. So it is within you as private sector. I'm really throwing this back to you. All the issues you've outlined, and they're there in the matrix I was looking at, they can be resolved by a phone call, an emphasis. What am I going to do? I have an opportunity to engage with the heads of state because I'm going to make courtesy calls to each of them. I wanted an opportunity to immerse myself first in the various issues, understand where it is biting, and then be able to when I meet this person, this head of state, I said, this is what they are crying out, this is what they are saying. But other than that, the push has to come from the private sector. And for me, I'd like to leave this room happy to note that the private sector is making a commitment to amp up on the awareness, to amp up on the engagement, to amp up on the interactions, and just be out there. I think for each one of us here as captains of industry, if you sit and you go to media, I'll tell you this, for the longest time, I've obviously in my back life had different engagements. And one of the questions I've always asked myself is, why don't I see Vimal Shah on TV when it's around election time, talking about anything to do with elections or politicians or just national processes. The private sector, and it's good, we've had an honest conversation, so the vice chair served it hot, so let me also serve it a little bit hot. Now, the private sector sits in its own cocoon and bubble. You need to break out of that bubble and know that every process impacts and affects the private sector. Such that if we are having engagements around the EAC, like now we are going to be celebrating our 25th anniversary as the EAC, what will be the private sector's role? That's an opportunity to really make noise. Say, we haven't covered this, what are we celebrating? I'm only saying that if we move together, we go very far. And it's a challenge that I'm putting out there that the baton can actually be led by the private sector in terms of outreach, engagement, enforcement, awareness, oversight, name it. The community, through the various policy organs, has before its agenda instruments that facilitate the removal of barriers to trade and the improvement of business environment. I'm committed to engaging with the respective policy organs to ensure quick finalization of these instruments that include the EAC Elimination NTB Act, revised schedules of commitments on the progressive liberalization of services, mutual recognition agreement regulation, EAC standardization, accreditation, conformity assessment bill, and the EAC metrology bill 2022. We have had a challenge, it's important to state, that the Sectoral Council on Justice and Legal Affairs has not managed to meet, and we do have bottleneck there with a number of things not moving. We've had a very, in my initial engagement, I came in at a time where there was budget process, and I had an opportunity to interact with the YALA, and they also asked about the bills, how many bills are we putting before them. So one of the commitments I'd like to make is that I will be engaging directly with the Justice and Legal Affairs Sectoral Council and just bring to their attention that there are a number of things that are not moving because they are stuck at their doorstep. I ask for your support in the various areas. We all know who sits at these sectoral councils. So the next time you bump into your Attorney General, ask them, when was the last time you were in the Justice and Legal Affairs meeting? The region has achieved remarkable progress in border efficiency through the implementation of the one-stop border post, resulting in a significant 70% reduction in border crossing times and generating annual savings exceeding 63 million United States dollars. Building on this foundation, the EAC is advancing towards a comprehensive digitization of the OSBPs to further enhance the experience for both traders and travelers. This strategic initiative aligns with the 2022 African Union Transform Africa Summit vision of adopting a non-stop border post practice. Now, I will agree with the Vice Chair on this paragraph because this is just flowery language. Now, if you go to the border, it's a little bit different. I pass that border very often, at least this one, Namanga. It's Namanga on both sides. Yeah, Namanga. And honestly, it's simple things that get to me. It's simple things like seeing people patched on window ledges trying to fill an illegible form. And I ask myself, how about pre-clearance vetting? These are forms that can be achievable, can be accessed digitally. And you fill them, and by the time you get there, I mean, why do we pay attention to airspace, and not the ground movement? Because if I'm able to check in myself and provide details and get my boarding pass on my phone, why can't I also check myself in when I'm going across the border? There are studies to suggest that public-private partnerships in some of these things make it move. This is something the private sector, because the private sector is the hard-hit one. The private sector can come up with best practices, have their own projects. Here the bank is here, and other supporters who can actually pull together to make this happen. Nothing stops the private sector from piloting and leading some of these initiatives, and it will be to the benefit of the private sector. You could adopt things like green lanes where traders that have been already verified previously can have a fast track. We can obviously have, and I know DSG Annette has told me there is a lot of progress and effort towards fast tracking perishable goods to ensure that they're not spoiled. But what I'm just giving and pointing at areas where EABC can seek for new partnerships. There are funders out there who will be willing to fund the EABC and not fund the EAC. So those are places, for instance, as private sector, you can take advantage of. So key components of the EAC's digitization digitalization strategy include the development of smart borders, featuring smart gates and deployment of advanced OSBP performance management tools. System integration will facilitate the seamless flow of information, while the digitization of simplified trade regimes and adoption of e-commerce, electronic certificates of origin, and digital payment systems will streamline trade processes. Before I come to investment, I'll also weigh in and say this, that having looked at other RECs around the globe, other regional economic communities, other formations that are of similar mind, there is nothing, I'll tell you this, there is no unique problem that the EAC is facing. All the issues we are raising have been encountered by other RECs. But I'll also go a step forward and tell you this, there is no strange solution. All the solutions are what we are proposing, what the teams have been working on. Digitization, public-private partnerships, ensuring a lot of dialogue, awareness creation, and so on and so forth. So we are not looking for a mystical solution to our issues. We're just looking for intentional, targeted interventions and holding ourselves to account. Unfortunately, at some point I had a conversation and I asked myself, it was a meeting, I called myself to a meeting with an agenda item, and I asked what really needs to happen to the EAC. Where is the will? And I think that's a conversation that needs to happen when we engage at that top level. Where is the will to make it happen? Because that will is what will spur us to where we want to go. On investment, ladies and gentlemen, we continue to pursue marketing of the EAC as a single investment destination. Principles for harmonization of partner states' investment laws have been developed, and once adopted by the policy organs, will facilitate harmonization of partner state investment laws, promoting creation of single investment area. The Secretariat is currently developing an EAC investment strategy to implement the investment policy adopted by Council, and this will facilitate improvement of the investment climate in the region and provide for interventions that improve transparency and predictability of partner states' investment measures. To catalyze the investment attraction, the EAC, through the Market Access Upgrade Program, is undertaking an assessment of investment facilitation and capacity building of the partner states to inform the development of country-specific and regional programs on investment facilitation. Following the conclusion of the assessment and implementation of these measures, partner states will be able to deploy appropriate tools for facilitation of investments. The partner states investment promotion agencies in April 2024 agreed to have an MOU for the promotion of investment in EAC, and this provided for the establishment of subcommittees to undertake joint investment promotion events as one of the activities, among others, to promote investment opportunities and bankable projects to foster an environment for feedback from investors regarding the business environment in the region. I'm also informed in the last few years, the EABC Secretariat, jointly with the EAC Secretariat, has been undertaking the Business and Investment Conference. We need to collaboratively revisit this approach with a view to undertaking targeted investment missions and conferences in the source markets for increased investment attractions. I will be pleased to lead these efforts. To move on to the issue that has sort of been a thorn, the tax harmonization, distinguished participants, as part of operationalizing Article 83(2)(e) of the treaty, Article 32 of the Common Market Protocols, and Article 8 of the Monetary Union Protocol, the policy for harmonization of domestic taxes in the EAC region was developed and approved by the Council of Ministers in 2019, with an objective of facilitating cross-border trade and investment, to promote sustainable growth and a fair distribution of available resources in the region, among others. Partner states, with support from the IMF, have developed a draft EAC Council Directive of Harmonization of Excise Tax. The draft Council Directive calls partner states to levy excise on the following categories of products: tobacco, alcohol, and non-alcoholic beverages, and fossil fuel. The draft Council Directive for Harmonization was considered by the 16th meeting of the Sectoral Council of Finance and Economic Affairs, and the meeting directed the Secretariat, in collaboration with partner states, to undertake a study on the impact of proposed taxes on the EAC economies and submit a report by December 2024 to allow a decision on these proposed rates. I do hope that in the various platforms you have, especially the working group, the technical working group, these proposals we will get inputs on. On common market, the aspirations and expectations of our citizens on the regional integration agenda remain very high. The people desire an inclusive, equitable, responsive integration process that addresses their daily needs. The common market provides expanded opportunities for their private sector and East African citizenry, guaranteeing them the freedom to seek opportunities across other borders, enriching both their lives and regional economy. Fulfilling expectations and delivering the promise of the common market calls for strong implementation by all parties, particularly the partner states, so as to deliver the rights and freedoms enshrined in the EAC Common Market Protocol. The Secretariat is working closely with partner states to align national laws and regulations to their commitments to the free movement of people, workers, goods, services, capital, and the right of residence and establishment as envisaged in the Common Market Protocol. The partner states have made progress in amending identified laws, regulations, and administrative guidelines, and some reforms have been realized. Now, I'll say this to this issue. Sometimes I go online and I see what is the interaction we have on our various social media platforms. I'll give you a basic finding that I've seen. A lot of the people on those platforms, I've seen a question that has been repeating itself. What are the benefits of the EAC to the people? We have 300 million plus citizens across the 8 partner states. I think with Somalia, possibly even more. Now, when we have people not knowing why we exist, we are not doing ourselves a favor. So one of the things I'm going to propose as a tangible exercise, I do know a lot of private sector companies come up with CSR activities. Perhaps the CSR theme for the EABC can be unified, and we just have perhaps a roadshow, perhaps materials, perhaps communication output. Why is the EAC important for you? That can be a CSR activity that possibly I cannot pull off at the Secretariat. But imagine if each of the chapters of the EABC says, hey, we just want to support the summit. I've been advised severally that when you go to these high levels of decision making, go with a solution. What is it you want to offer? Go with a draft proposal. And then now, by the time you're asking for what you want, you've already softened the ground. So imagine if you went to summit and said, as a private sector, we want to take the lead in educating the citizens of the partner states why Jumuiya matters. But then you say, but on the flip side, Your Excellencies, we have a challenge because as much as I want to tell them they have free movement, my ID is still not accepted. So do you want to look into that little matter? This little matter of the ID. Why is it not being accepted? So on one hand, you're saying, this is what you'd like to do. It's, I guess, a different way of, it's just a proposal, but it's just a different way of how can we collaboratively push this agenda. The fact that our citizens don't know about us, it's a little, and I'll give my personal experience. Before I came into this position, of course, I knew about the EAC. I knew a lot about maybe not so much what everything the EAC does, but a lot about some of the work, because I was involved a little bit in some work maybe a decade or so ago. But as a Kenyan principal secretary who was heading what every government department was doing, as in charge of the performance and the management of every single government department, every single government agency, never did I see an interaction that pointed me towards a regional effort. So one would imagine that at that level, I should be able to see in a performance contract what are that offices or that agencies or that parastatal or that ministry's contribution to the realization of jumuiya. True or false? Tuko pamoja? Kuna wale niliacha nyuma. Are we together? We should, I'm giving my own example, isn't it? I should be able to see that. So that tells us what are the deliberate efforts. We need to query that. What are the deliberate efforts within individual partner states to move the needle forward? It starts with, show me your money. How much are you putting into jumuiya? Show me your policies. How much have you done in terms of council directives? Show me other efforts. Like, I think for us to achieve this goal, distinguished participants, we need to widen our interactions, but more importantly, we need to deepen our engagements. We are scratching at the table with nice words, common markets, free movement of goods, persons, labor. That's the scratch surface. Go a little bit deeper, show me your passport. I don't want your ID. Give me clearance to fly over your airspace. Pay at the border. Those are the realities that confront us. So I'm here telling you this. I'm here saying this very humbly, that the EAC Secretariat does not have a magic wand to wave. And voila, everything is going to disappear. It has to take all of us. That's all I'm saying. And the next time we meet, let us all come together and ask ourselves, what have we individually done? I will skip the issue of mutual recognition of academic and professional qualifications, because I think Vice Chair, you really talked about it very, very well. So ladies and gentlemen, in tracking the implementation of commitments in the free movement of goods, services, and capital, the EAC Common Market Scorecard has been used as a tool to monitor progress and identify areas for reforms for partner states. The Common Market Scorecard 2020 was adopted by Council and provided an assessment of the progress made since 2016. To facilitate implementation of recommendations in the scorecard, an action plan has been developed, and the Council will be tracking the status of implementation to accelerate Common Market Protocol implementation. Before I go to infrastructure development, I'd like to do a little survey. I keep saying I'm good on data. Please be honest if you're not, this is not for the Secretariat. How many of us have visited the EAC website and looked at council directives on matters trade? Kusema kweli, nikuwa mwenye haki. How many of us? So the data is there for you to speak to yourselves. That's how you hold us accountable. That's how you hold the partner states accountable. All these directives, am I right? They're online. They are there. So the Council in its 45th meeting directed the Secretariat. The Council in 45th meeting asked partner states to, DSG. What are we supposed to, what did partner states agree to do by June? On the, is it the trade remedies? Yeah, so that's one example. Only Burundi has ratified. Anyone from Burundi here? So Burundi, hoye. Only Burundi has ratified the article that would bring to effect the Trade Remedies Committee. When the council met, we agreed, made a decision, and there was communication that all partner states were going to initiate the process and give us the report by June this year. Now we are in August. Have we gotten anything? So the question then begs, what is the role of the Secretariat to that point? I was asking her, we need to do letters. She said, we've done reminders, we've done letters. So it starts with us holding us to account. So EABC, Mr. Nchao, this is a challenge for you. That should be your work plan. Every day wake up and scan the directives and ping private sector and ask them, they said this. If my EAC minister in every country knows that they have a private sector that is hawk-eyed on the decisions that they make, then trust me, they will start moving. Otherwise, it will be a NATO process. I'm almost concluding. I'm going to talk about infrastructure, which I think is very critical. One of the conditions that I saw for successful RECs around the world is developed infrastructure. When we have roads that we can use, when we have buildings at the border points, when we have energy, when we have electricity, this is what makes it conducive. So the EAC, in accordance to the Article 90 of the treaty, has harmonized and developed road design standards for the region in 2014 and encourages partner states to promote the use, as much as possible, sustainable local materials and resources to reduce on the cost of road constructions. The community continues to improve the road transport network by interconnecting partner states through multinational roads, with currently ongoing along the coastal corridor Malindi, Mombasa, Lungalunga, Tanga, Pangani, Bagamoyo, 400 kilometers, and we have funding for 200 kilometers. The Lake Tanganyika belt, which is the Sumbawanga corridor, which is 300 kilometers, is also under construction. The community also undertook detailed designs for 375 multinational roads between Tanzania and Burundi in 2022, and we expect that partner states will source for construction funding immediately upon completion of the designs. The community is set to commence feasibility studies on the 256 Jinja, Malaba, Busia, Kisumu, Kisiani Expressway along the northern corridor, with improvements of Malaba, Busia, OSBPs, and the upgrading of the Loakaka border post. All these projects are funded by the African Development Bank. We have continued to engage development partners to finance preparation of more multinational projects. So to the big players in the room in infrastructure, there are opportunities for PPPs, and we hope that this is something that you'll want to look at. We are all beneficiaries of these corridors. The fact that when we have a meeting in Kigali, my staff can comfortably drive from Arusha to Kigali is already a testament of how these corridors are opening up our borders, which is what we are all aiming at. Distinguished participants, we are happy to report that the United Republic of Tanzania and the Republic of Burundi have joined the implementation of EAC roaming network, also known as the One Network Area. However, two partner states, namely the DRC and FRS, Federal Republic of Somalia, are yet to join and will endeavor to follow up to ensure that they are onboarded. Once fully implemented, the cost of communication within the entire EAC region will be reduced and result in improved intra-regional trade among our partner states. The community continues to coordinate the implementation of framework for liberalization of air transport markets in the region that would encourage competition and lower the cost of airfares through market forces. In that regard, the EAC finalized the draft air liberalization regulations and developed draft strategies for reducing the cost of air transport in the EAC region. We've made tremendous progress in constructing the one-stop border post, as this no doubt enhances trade facilitation in the region. A borderless community will allow goods, services, technology, information, and capital to flow freely from one partner state to another without the current restrictions. On monetary union, this was expected to be established in 2024 as per the monetary union roadmap. However, as we all know, this has not been realized and the timeline was revised to 2031. The revised roadmap is under implementation and some progress has been made. This includes legal instruments for the establishment of institutions to support the monetary union have been developed and are at various stages of approval for operationalization. EAC central banks have established the East African Payment System, a multi-currency system that allows settlement in local currencies of partner states. To facilitate currency convertibility in the region, the partner states have signed and are implementing an MOU on currency convertibility and repatriation. Legal instrument for harmonization of excise duties is also developed and under consideration. The EAC avoidance of double taxation agreement is also developed and under consideration. Delayed operationalization of the EAMI, the East African Monetary Union, has affected the implementation of the YAMU roadmap. This is occasioned by the delay in attaining consensus in the hosting of EAMI. Every partner state wants to host EAMI. The other challenge has been attainment of 4 macroeconomic convergence criteria, which include a ceiling on the headline inflation of 8%, reserve cover of 4.5 months of import, a ceiling on the overall deficit of 3% of GDP, and a ceiling on gross public debt of 50% of GDP has been challenging to most partner states. As you can tell, this issue of the monetary union is quite an onion peel. There are very many layers to it. And I'll say this, we're in the heart of the MSMEs, bottom up. When you go to the border, how do the women and the men, small-scale traders, actually trade? That's one question. I keep waiting to go for, what do you call them, site visits, DSG, to the various border points, so that I can see what currency is in use. Like here in Namanga, do they sell in T shillings or Kenya shilling or any? But how does that affect the convertibility? The rate is ever moving, Vimal. Every day. It depends on the mood. You know? Yes, there are middlemen, and those middlemen make the markets hard. Isn't it? The second aspect, and DSG maybe will have an opportunity to tell you her experience. She was telling me something really interesting in Burundi, that sometimes the money, so for instance, Honorable Sadia, South Sudanese pounds, where else are they recognized? That's why I said else. Maybe just at the tips of the border, isn't it? So assuming the trader from RSS wants to sell in Burundi, there are 2 things to overcome, maybe 3: conversion rates, the middlemen, and dollarization. Isn't it? And that's when we will achieve economic freedom, the day we will break through this ceiling of what is our monetary union. The day we will stop politicizing it and just, like I said, go to the granular. I'm afraid nowadays when I go back to Kenya and I open my wallet, I always feel like I'm going to pull off the wrong note. And I have to say, wait, where am I? And then I know I need a Kenya shilling or a T shilling or a pound, a beautiful note from RSS. It's huge. You know? So those are the simple conversations that we need to have. Sometimes it's easy as private sector to think at level 9 because we deal in dollars. But that trade for our community to grow starts with Mama Mboga, as we say in Kenya, Mama Mboga. What are they able to trade with? And that's a conversation the monetary union needs to address. There are all these lofty issues. We have, of course, the conversation with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation that is supporting Trademark East Africa and GIZ on the East African payment systems. We are fully engaged on that. We've restarted the conversation, and in the first week of September, I think the second week of September, we'll have another forum to discuss the East Africa payment systems and to know who is doing what and what are the central banks doing. And I think in conversation with the DSG, perhaps you can explore the representation of the private sector. So private sector priorities during my tenure. Ladies and gentlemen, given the above progress, pending decisions, and private sector priorities, I note that the EAC EABC Technical Working Group has undertaken regular meetings to review status of implementation of policy issues. I'm also informed that the next meeting of the Technical Working Group is planned for next week. However, a number of policy issues are awaiting consideration by policy organs. I therefore commit to follow up on Council directives and decisions, more so those that are relevant for the private sector, and specifically to ensure that the meeting of the Sectoral Council on Legal and Judicial Affairs takes place to allow for adoption of the trade instruments that have been pending. In line with Article 127.4, I want to ensure that the Secretary General's Forum takes place to deliberate on solutions to deepen the integration process. However, for the EAC vision to be realized, we note the need for improvement of the business environment for businesses, especially micro, small, and medium enterprises. In that regard, I urge that we work collaboratively towards identifying avenues for improved access to affordable financing for SMEs. I will explore avenues for climate finance under the East African Sustainable Growth Framework, as well as support in establishment of dedicated financial instruments such as low-interest loans, grants, and venture capital, specifically targeted at SMEs, so as to make financing more accessible and affordable. This, however, requires my continuous engagement with you in the private sector. So, Vice Chair, you are assured that we are starting together, we'll stick together, we'll stick it out together, and we'll conclude together. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to reiterate that the EAC integration is private sector led, and want to assure you of my commitment and our commitment as a secretariat to dialogue and engage in platforms such as these to come up with solutions for an integrated EAC with improved business environment. It is my expectation that at the end of this dialogue, I will have an understanding of how we can continue to support the private sector in terms of improving the legal and regulatory environment, as well as related actions on our part as secretariat that need immediate attention. Our shared responsibility is to deliver prosperity to the citizens of East Africa, and I reiterate that commitment and look forward to our collaboration. The treaty confers upon us the responsibility for sensitization of EAC citizens. With resources available, we have held various programs targeting both private sector and civil society, and it is my expectation that these efforts will continue. I would also like to recognize the role that the EABC has played in this regard. Allow me to also point out something that I had an opportunity to look at the matrix, Mr. Njau, that the Technical Working Group is working on, the focal and priority areas. I'd wish for your consideration to include the issue of money laundering. The East African Anti-Money Laundering Association has been reaching out, and it does say that there are efforts for outreach both to the EAC, to the EABC, because as private sector, we are most affected when we have illegal businesses, when we have illegal capital flowing in. We have to protect our borders, our trade, but we also have to protect against threats, against counter-terrorism activities. So I urge us, as we look at that matrix, to incorporate collaboration with the East and Southern Africa Anti-Money Laundering Association. We have enough numbers right now. We are 8 partner states, so we are beyond the threshold to form our own East Africa Anti-Money Laundering Association. SADC is heavily engaged in that initiative, but sadly the EAC is left behind, is seen to be unresponsive, and it's important that these conversations take place. With these many lengthy remarks, Waswahili husema yote tisa, I thank you and I look forward to the deliberations and the dedicated meeting later on. Asanteni sana, merci beaucoup. Thank you so much.
Another round of applause for the SG. FG says, thank you so much. The issue is from 14 to 40%. And that to be achieved, we have buy East Africa, build East Africa. If we continue with buy and build, we shall not achieve. Members of the private sector, the SG is ready to listen. We have to use this opportunity so that we see the trade within East Africa moving smoothly. With that, I would like to go straight to the presentation, a brief presentation from the EABC on some of the key private sector priority issues. Then from there, we shall have a panel discussion, which will be moderated by Madame Flavia Businje, Director Customs Trade at the EAC Secretariat. The panelists will be Mr. Vimao Shah, EABC Chairman Emeritus, Mr. Dennis Carrera, EABC Vice Chair, Madame Fiona Wall, EABC Board Member, and Madame Doreen Dominic, Head of Public Sector, Stanbic Bank Tanzania. So, Njau, you can allow me to recognize the presence of Mr. Stuart Mwesugwa, EABC Board Member from Uganda. Okay. I've been advised I've been advised that our sugar levels are too low, that we need to boost them. So we are going to have a tea break, and also that will be an opportunity for the press to have an interaction with the SG, as well as a group photo. So we can move out for the tea break, the group photo, and yes. So, where are we having the group photo from? Okay. So we shall, as we exit, you turn left. That's where we shall have our group photo from.
So regarding the EAC common external tariff, the challenge has been that the persistent stay of application and the country-specific duty remission. As you can see, for example, this year alone, we have more than 1,900 tariff lines where the EAC partner state have a request stay of application. And this accounted to 22% of the EAC tariff lines. But also you can see most of this stay of application were actually granted in Uganda, where you have 901 tariff lines, followed by Kenya, 816 tariff line, Rwanda 116 tariff line, Tanzania 89 tariff lines, and Burundi 24 tariff line. And the sector which are more prone to the stay of application are cotton, textile, apparel, where you find more than 600 tariff lines, iron and steel 194 tariff lines, and agro-processing 192 tariff lines. The challenge with stay of application mostly is creating a level playing field. But the good thing also, for example, we have seen some of this stay application is where the partner state actually apply higher tariff or import duty than what EAC is implementing. And this also shows maybe in some country there is a sufficient production of those particular product. So in some area, for example, in the agro-processing, if you look at those stay of application, it shows that some of the try to add value, and there is opportunity if we use higher tariff line, high import duty, we can encourage regional value of those particular products. So what we are requesting actually, because we have implemented this for, now we are talking of the 30 years, for EAC Secretariat to undertake some sort of analysis or assessment, especially look those products which are prone to stay of application and come up with a recommendation. Either we grant those particular product higher tariff line according to the countries what they are doing. That is our recommendation. And at the technical level, we have been told that the EAC Secretariat is preparing the term of reference for doing that analysis or assessment, and they will mobilize some fund to have this assessment. That was one of the issues. Regarding of elimination of non-tariff, I'm not going to deal with it because we have already agreed that the Sectoral Council on Legal and Judicial is the one is supposed actually to handle the finalization of the amendment and of the Act and regulations. There is another area which I think private sector needs some action, and this is a review of EAC Rule of Origin 2015. As you can see, the implementation now we are talking about 10 years. So we think we need to review the EAC Rule of Origin, especially those sectors where some private sector think that the rule of EAC currently is stringent when you compare with the other rule of origin. For example, we are talking of a tripartite free trade area rule of origin, and also we are talking of Africa Continental Free Trade Area rule of origin. And some of the products, for example, which are finding now difficult to access the market under preferential tariff treatment include edible oil, cement, because the EAC, for example, edible oil, you find the previous rule of origin used to allow value addition, where factories, they can import crude palm oil outside the EAC, add value where they are making refined or final edible oil, and the edible oil could be access the EAC market duty-free. The rule of origin actually require the input of edible oil must actually originating from EAC. So you cannot import crude palm oil either from Malaysia, add value, and start transferring across the EAC country and enjoy preferential tariff treatment. That is one of the stringent rules which we need actually to address, because what we are saying is like we are telling the manufacturer not to allocate their factory in EAC, go and allocate it in other Africa countries using the Africa Continental Free Trade Area rule of origin and access EAC market. So if our EAC rule of origin is not flexible enough, actually it will lose the relevance, so we are supposed to be more faster in terms of reviewing this EAC rule of origin. The harmonization of tax, actually the cry from the private sector, the process is very slow, but also the process is not involving the private sector. For example, Her Excellency Secretary General, since the subcommittee has met and starting dealing with harmonization of the excise tax, you will find that they are only talking about having the minimum excise duty. And having minimum excise duty is not a problem for the private sector, because in this region, we understand that partner state don't lower the excise rate. They go to higher. So we are expecting the committee to discuss the minimum and even the ceiling, so that the private sector can have a predictable environment, knowing that excise duty will be from this range to that level of higher. And you will find for all meetings, they have only managed actually to agree on the excise duty of 6 per liter of 100% alcoholic content. But they have not actually been able to agree on the minimum excise duty for non-alcohol, beverage, tobacco, and fuel products. So our humble request is to use the partner, to involve the private sector, where we can harmonize those issues which we think they are very important for private sector. Liberalization of, the last one is EAC trade and investment agreement with third parties. Here we have a big challenge, Secretary General, because experience shows that partner state actually negotiate, but when it's come to the conclusion and sign the agreement, that's why we have challenge. We have a good example of EAC, European Union EPA, where all the partner states actually negotiated, even initial, the agreement. But when it's come to ratification and implementation, we had the challenge. But also negotiations are taking too long. That's why you find some partner states have decided to go separately and have an agreement. Because, as you know, the EAC partner state have a different level of development. Some countries actually are categorized as LDC, where they have opportunity of accessing the European market or international market. But the other actually are categorized as developed. And they have challenge when it's come that we are not reaching the agreement with the third parties. We have seen some development where also, for example, the Secretary Council has already directed the Secretariat to do analysis, where now they wanted to negotiate with United Arab Emirates, United Kingdom, Pakistan, and Singapore. But recently, I think last week, I think you hosted the Ambassador of Indonesia in EAC. We had some discussion with the Ambassador, and also Indonesia is very much interested to be included in this area. And we know Indonesia is a big economy, is one of the G20. So private sector also will have, we think the private sector, they need also Indonesia to be included, where we can have a rule-based trade agreement with Indonesia in terms of export and import. Another area is a tripartite free trade area. The challenge we have is some of the countries have not ratified, for example, Tanzania, and we think the private sector needed to ratify the agreement so that Tanzania also, private sector, can enjoy. For example, now there is some challenge when it's come to Tanzania, private sector wanted to export to Egypt. Egypt is member of COMESA, the other country we have been able to enjoy, but is not, Tanzania cannot use tripartite to access the Egypt market. But also the other country, they needed to finalize the tariff offer. I mean, I'm talking of Kenya, Burundi, Rwanda, Uganda, and Kenya, to finalize the tariff offer with SACU, as well also Tanzania to finalize tariff offer with Egypt. So those were few issues which I wanted to highlight. Yes. Yes.
Tanzania, for example, at which level is it stuck? Minister of Trade, Customs, Commission and Employment Authority, where is, so that we troubleshoot, and from here I know I'll go and meet the Minister of Trade and say, this thing is in your office, and maybe people from Tanzania here. Okay. We can help identify where the problem is and how best to assist the Secretary General. Say, let's go and try, and if we need your support, make a call. Some of these things can be solved through phone call, multiple ways, but the problem solved.
Thank you, Chair. In Tanzania, in terms of the ratification, when we inquire from the Ministry of Industry and Trade, they say actually they are preparing the document which will be submitted to the Parliament for the ratification. But also they say they need to raise some awareness of the private sector. So since some of the members from Tanzania are here, we need them to push at the Ministry of Industry and Trade as well as Ministry of EAC Cooperation, because we have also written to the Ministry of EAC Cooperation. And we have a new minister who we have communicated, and he say actually Tanzania is committed. In terms of the tariff offer, I think that is at the level of EAC Secretariat, which is coordinating the tariff offer between Kenya, Burundi, Uganda, and Rwanda with SACU. And another tariff offer is between Tanzania and Egypt. And that is at the level of EAC Secretariat. No. That issue actually was in the Secretary Council of Trade, Finance and Investment, and the Secretary Council directed actually Tanzania to ratify and to report back in the coming Secretary Council of Trade and Finance and Investment.
Thank you, Adrian, for the presentation and for highlighting such important issues. The next Sectoral Council will be in November, and at which point we hope that these updates will be provided. But I think an important issue that we need to take back is that these deadlines are always moving. So even at the next meeting, we won't get the report that is expected. We will get perhaps a submission that we are still consulting, and we will report back at the next sectoral council. That's, I think, what we need to break, that these discussions at country level do not take too long, that the consultations are never ending, that these issues remain on the table for a very long time. And for some of the issues that he raised, for example, on the category B, category C, tariff offer, that is, I think, point F. We've had many meetings and discussions, and at each meeting, we're not able to get that breakthrough. We are maybe at 90%. There's about a few tariff lines that we need to cover, but because they cover important sectors of the economy, countries prefer to, conclude their own technical consultations and engagements before we make it. Slow but progressive, but we need to deal with pace. I think that's for me a very fundamental issue. I will also comment on a few other points, and perhaps also invite Director Flavia, who's here with us, to also comment on a few. In terms of the NTBs, and that we discuss continually, we, I think, need to reflect on the political dimension of this issue. We can have all the meetings and all the engagements, but if there is an invisible hand that is not allowing for these issues to get off the table, I think they will remain. As a sort of a different approach, we decided maybe we need to bring some countries together to reflect on issues that are country-to-country specific. And we had a meeting in Machakos where we said this is going to be a strategic conversation on NTBs between two countries, and we got a breakthrough. So I think some of those, that discussion was at technical level, to PSs, to ministers, but for only a few countries, not a whole discussion. And we got a breakthrough through that meeting. So I think some of those avenues and different ways of working will deliver us some change. And that's what we also want to pilot, even at border posts. And I was whispering to Honorable SG that we have a schedule for her. When we visit the border posts led by Honorable Secretary General, ministers, things change. We visited border posts in Elegu, South Sudan, with the Minister of Trade from the Republic of South Sudan, the Minister of EAC, Honorable Rebecca Kadaga, and there were some improvements there. Something happened. So we need to, I think, change some ways of working, yes, change tactics so that we can have some change. On the delays regarding the NTB Act, I think Honorable SG mentioned what she's going to do in that respect. On the roadmap, that goes back to the political issue that I raised. You can have a roadmap, you can have committees, but if there's an underhand, it's that underhand that we need to see how to address. And I hope within this discussion today we'll find some avenues. On the issue of domestic taxes and pace, I agree with the Executive Director, CEO, that we need to involve the Ministry of Finance in this discussion. As long as it impacts on revenues, and we know how important revenues are in our countries. Countries are still depending a lot on collections from customs revenue, from internal trade taxes. So I think these roundtable discussions that we are proposing, let's have them at the table. And let's explain to them how this process is impacting on intra-EAC trade and what we need them to do. Because the senior officials who attend these meetings usually have their instructions. Please don't make any, don't allow, don't accept, don't move beyond this position. And they are not going to move beyond these positions. Instead, decisions will be taken around a new study, a new go back and consult, go back and sensitize. So these processes continue to delay. Let's agree that at the next round table, let's get the ministers of finance, let's sit with them and explain why some of these issues are important and what we need them to do. They need to give different instructions to their technical people so that we can unblock some of these difficult issues. Rules of origin, I think, are a really important issue, and we're trying to align to the FCTA process so that we don't have a process of review, and then we have to do another process of review. So it's in our pipeline, but we do recognize the importance of fast tracking that. The stays of application.
Just a minute, if I could be of help on that one. Rules of origin and how it works. You know, 2 days ago I imported some things from Uganda, and there is a challenge of understanding the paperwork required by transporters, cargo owners, and just a simple one fuso truck takes a week at Katuna border. Not because the driver, but paperwork center is not known. What we did in Kigali, for example, when we realized we wanted to export under CFTA, and the key required documents were in 7 different places. These documents from where? This one from where? This one from where? We pushed for the one-stop center. Excuse me. We took it the highest level. And we asked the president, can we kindly ask you, put all these people in one roof, one place, from which the customs, standards, everything. And it worked. It worked. Of course, our things work quick. It worked in 1 week. Everybody was sitting together. So now if you have to export, you go in one. Now, I think the examples we can also borrow from some countries. So that because I noticed somebody is in Katuna, he says, oh, I didn't go to Naguru for this. Oh, I didn't know this one is in the Chireka. Now, but he's in Katuna meanwhile. And Katuna you are paying every day. So there's also shortage information on rules of origin and how it should flow. So GIZ, further seminars to people, drivers, truck owners, to understand how the system flows for ease of movement and cross-border activities.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I think that's a point of action that we take away. And even translating these into languages that can be easily understood. These are sort of quick wins that we can deliver very quickly. I will perhaps not take up more time. I probably have touched on the different aspects. All these issues are actually in our work of the technical working group, following up and following through diligently. So hopefully at our next discussion, we can see some progress in some of these areas.
Thank you. So, you know, the Vice Chair said we stop using hopefully, and we have clear action.
Yeah, you're right.
So I think we can make a commitment to report back. I think, Bwana CEO, what I'm hearing, and I hope you have someone in your team who's already capturing the clear resolutions that are coming out. It's important that I commit the Secretariat. We are currently in the start of our planning cycle, complete with the budgeting process, and I know there are meetings that have already started happening. So I think DSG, it's important that all the issues that are captured in the priority matrix are part of our work plan as we are now starting the budgeting process, because then if it's in our work plan, we'll allocate resources and we'll keep an eye on these issues, which are very clearly aligned to our priorities. I think also for the partners who are here and also the private sector, what is clearly coming out is the need for a dashboard of information. You know, just a dashboard where I know that I can just click and get information on if I need to move truck from one country to another. What are the documents? Are they downloadable? Are they fillable? Like, let's just have a dashboard. It's about time we really invest in digital infrastructure to resolve some of these issues. And I believe DSG, we have partnerships even under World Bank that we can leverage on to sort of get maximum output from some of these projects we have. And I think the last issue that's coming out is the need to unbundle information. And I think this is something we can 3 ways capture. Number one is to have EABC put sort of mirror some of the documents that we have in terms of information, FAQs, what is needed, what is required, you know, where can you go? Like, let's just make these things easy. And if possible, we can even have USSD access code for some of this information. So I think information is power. And the more information we unbundle, the less of the issues that they're there. And I think what also came out during the tea break in our conversation is the fact that even the customs officers don't know some of these processes. You quote, but I'm supposed to get this, but I'm supposed to get this, and then they're not aware. So I see a situation where even some of this information can really be blown up into big posters that we can put in these one-stop border posts. You go there and the walls are stark white. So why not just come up with infomercials, you know, things that we can put on the wall. DSG, for those who are supporting this one-stop border post, how about just putting videos running through the screens in local language of the steps required, what is required, and just make sure everybody knows what is happening, so that if you ask, you say, but here, these are the steps, but here, these are the steps. So I think those are some low-hanging interventions that we can all factor into our various activities and practical solutions.
Honorable SG, if you allow me. Okay. Through the SG, I would just like to probably make a statement in terms of the offers under the rules of origin for the CFTA and the tripartite. It's not that we are not implementing, but we haven't even finalized the negotiations. We are currently at 81.9% with the tripartite SACU, and at the CFTA we are at 91%. So there are certain tariff lines that are still pending agreement, and most of those are motor vehicles, wooden furniture, steel and steel products, garments, and some textile, plus sugar. So much as we have made progress, there is still work to be done for us to fully trade. In terms of information, I would like to say that we need to use some of the trade portals that are in the respective partner states. They have elaborate information on what we need to trade, what we need to cross the border, what we need on specific products. So maybe as put right, we need to have issues to do with sensitization and maybe enhancing the capacity of officials that are dealing with this. We have the trade in line with what Honorable SG has just talked about on the borders, the wall fittings of information. We have discussed with GIZ, and they have committed to give us a digital information screen where we have to, somebody waiting has to look at what is required of them to cross the border. So that is what I wanted to add. Thank you very much.
Thank you much, Adrian. It was a deep discussion on the issues raised by the EABC. I think, yes? You have an issue? Okay.
No. I just wanted to give a solution, because now through the SG again, now that she's talking about solutions that are workable, we briefly ran a 2-year project that was funded by the Open Society Foundations some 2 or 3 years back. And what we had identified as problems, unfortunately, yes, I'm David Sigano from the East Africa Law Society. What we identified as a workable solution was exactly what is being discussed in this room. People do not know, do not have information. They do not know, if I come with a good from Kenya, how do I process it to get into Tanzania? What do I need? What kind of documentation do I need? So we set up satellite offices at each of the offices. Actually, the functional office was at Namanga, and we had a functional office in Busia. And these particular offices were actually information offices. We tried to get the customs officials to give us space within the border post, the OSBPs, so that we station an officer. They could not allow that. So we actually got our own office space. The intention was to set up office spaces across all the major border points, Elegu, Gatuna, all across East Africa. We had actually earmarked all the major border points. And the ones that worked were two, Namanga and Busia, and we got a lot of information. Besides helping the traders, we also collected their challenges. So because we are a law society, they will come with their challenges, we'd record them and transmit them to the customs officials. And then we had a training platform for the traders at the borders and the customs officials. Unfortunately, that program ended. We tried to renew it with OSF, but they had a lot of changes internally. They couldn't renew the program. But we're working on a new partnership. And probably this is something we can do with EABC, because we had mooted an MOU to provide legal remedy at the border points for those that face challenges, immediate solutions, and link up the customs officials and the traders. But then that's a conversation we can have as we think solutions going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Adrian, and thank you. I think, with due respect, when we talk about giving information like what you're talking about, how to do this, we have a new university that's for free. It's called YouTube University. Anybody heard of YouTube? Every common man who has not a phone, but it's called a device now, can access YouTube for free. In many startups, people are learning how to do new startups just through YouTube. Border posting, how to do documentation, put up all your links and documents on it as a link and give it to people for free, because then direct them to say, fine, you can have billboards saying, go to this YouTube site, you get all your details. Every mamamboga, every person will know exactly how to do it. And I can tell you, the youth in Kenya, we call them Gen Z now, they are learning how to do this online and really looking at how to do these things. So it's very easy, it's for free, even a donor-funded project, maybe to originate it. There's now ChatGPT, new AI coming through. You can actually digitize it. So it's very simple to do it. I think EABC, EAC probably together can contribute to this and make it for every border post. And I think the issue around border posts is about information asymmetry. Yesterday night, me and Dennis came through the border in Namanga, We were there at 3 o'clock in the morning, and you could see we go to the Kenyan border and then we go to the Tanzanian border, and they're sitting in the same room, right? And they don't exchange information because, we have to kagua separately. We have to check separately, and these guys check separately. What is the point? Why can't it be a one-stop border post? And that's why I said your system. But they said Kenya has a different immigration system, Tanzania different immigration system. Why can't we even harmonize the immigration system so information is shared across both? So I'm just saying a lot of these things are very easy kills right now. We can do it quickly. But having said what Annette talked about, people meeting deadlines. I want to reflect back. What is a deadline? What does a deadline mean to everyone? After that date, we are dead. That's a deadline. What we are putting up as ministers, as Stiffy, as a council of ministers, or the private sector, there are no deadlines at all. Because there's no death after that. It's only milestones to say, keep postponing. And under the ban, I'll stand up for that. Under the ban of saying we're consulting, I've been here 22 years now, coming to Arusha, discussing, negotiating, and you can see, it used to be Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania before, then we had Rwanda, Burundi come in, then we now many more, now we are 8. And as we grow bigger, everybody says we come to the meeting, but we shall consult. I want to say this one thing to EAC right now, and thank you, Secretary General, for staying back with the whole team here. Anybody coming to an EAC meeting should be a decision maker. And you must have the mandate. In our companies, what we've done is we've got a system now whereby if I send you a message and say this thing needs to be done, if in 48 hours you haven't responded, either said yes, no, or it gets approved. If this is a style we could use here to say, after this date, this thing goes through. So you have, as a country, as a minister, as a president, or whatever, a right to stop that to say, here's what it is. Not to say we are consulting. No. Decisive. Yes, no, out. In my opinion, I think it was said everyone, I think if we keep on doing things the same way as we've been doing for many years, we will get the same results. 25 years, we are celebrating very proudly 25 years. I'm saying a lot has been done. EAC has gone a long way. We've done a fantastic thing. Thank you. But the potential that we have, the amazing personalities we have in East Africa, the amazing human capital we have, we could have leapfrogged such a big way. And let's stop worrying about saying, oh, we are the best, fastest. We sit with that thing, we are the fastest. But soon, tripartite will lead us, ACFTA will lead us, and we say, yeah, we were the fast track to COMESA, we were the fast track to all this, and then we become obsolete. I want to say this to the entire EAC here, and EABC, after your dialogue. EABC also, we need a reset, complete reset. EAC reset. I'm thinking there's fresh breath of air coming through this new Secretary General to say, fine, we want to listen to people, let's go down. And go to the Gemba, which means go to the ground. Kwa ground, we say, kitu ni tofauti. Uko kwa ground, vile tunaongea hapo ni tofauti. So the point is, let's go there and solve it. I think we all, and I'm saying one thing openly, we all have something called devices. Who doesn't know in this room how to do video calling? For free. As long as you have bandwidth, you can do video calling. You can get consulting done online, decision made there and there. Go to any airport. You've all gone to airports, right? When you go to an airport, there's an immigration officer there and then, either in, out, or you go back. Do they have to say, I'm consulting? Why? Because the rules are clear. Next you go to the customs. The customs guy, they say, lipo shuru, hakuna shuru, enter. They decide there and then. Do they consult? And yet here when we come for meetings at EAC, we say, we shall go back and we shall come back to you. That is a change of tact we need now. Put a deadline, say by this date. And I can tell you one thing, when there's a deadline, there's something called lastminute.com. Everything gets done. Mark any one of us, before you take a flight, all your work gets sorted out. Am I right? If you have to travel on some emergency thing, before you travel, everything gets sorted out? Because you set your priorities and say, fine, this one done, delegated or done. Can we not have the same mission here? Because I'm saying one thing. We are facing a deadline of ACFTA, COMESA, okay, it's not much, but the whole tripartite, overtaking EAC and becoming the limelight. And then when Egypt and South Africa are winning in SACU and COMESA, Egypt is winning, then we'll all be consumers, we'll all be supermarkets for these products. And we're giving them free access. Come, send your goods for duty free, no problem. Why? Because we're under COMESA or we're under SACU. And yet our own brothers and sisters in East Africa, we're saying, no, who are you? No, this is a brother, I have to stop them. Why are we doing that to ourselves? We are shooting ourselves in the foot. Under whatever banner of the list I've seen there, or revenue measures or origin measures or whatever, I can tell you we produce a lot of crude palm oil in Uganda. You can vouch for me. We have plantations there. We are not allowed to export to Rwanda without paying 25% duty, locally processed product. And here we are sitting and saying, no, East Africa, big, greatest, fastest. Nothing. Why? Because there's a rule of change of tariff heading. That's not even been highlighted here. Change of tariff heading means it's in 151100, 1511-1990 is a finished product. The tariff does not change within the same tariff heading, and therefore it is not eligible for East Africa. But you want to bring it from overseas, duty free. Do you see the folly we have here? And nobody, for last 8 years we've been arguing for it. We went to Rwanda, they said, no, this one is. They've been verification with this 5 times. Seen, they said, why don't you do this in our country? Why don't you do this there? But we won't allow this. We are deliberately stopping ourselves from intra-trade. When we say 14%, 18%, 16%, whatever the number, even if you say 20% right now, it is insignificant because the target of 45% or 70% is something we need to say, let's make it a mission now. If we make that a mission and say we are going for the high thing right now, it's do or die. Mission impossible. But mission I am possible. Let's make it possible. And I just think that we need a reset here because frankly, all the studies have been done. All the policies are there, research, this, that, whatnot. Now it's just one last thing remaining. And it's the political will. At 1, presidential level, 2, ministerial level, 3, trade level. And I'm saying ourselves. I would rather say introspect, private sector, ourselves. Kenya versus Uganda versus Tanzania versus Rwanda versus Burundi versus now South Sudan. Then we'll go against DRC. Then we'll go against Somalia now. And soon we shall go and invite Ethiopia and say, now we are going to go against Ethiopia. I'm just saying, this is where the stage is set for really non-performance. I would rather say one thing, perform or perish. And I just wanted to say that a lot of the education put on YouTube, let's go and educate people, but then digitization is the only way. Standardize all the forms, put them online, make them available. In fact, while I'm coming from Nairobi to Namanga, I should have filled up all the things, e-visa or whatever, on the spot. When I go there, no issues. Right? Our number plates for East Africa, can they not be standardized so that they have a digit there? These guys at the border, they have a camera there. Straight, read the barcode. They can see this car is from here. They even know the logbook, the owners. Standardized on one system. Digitization. If we think that map there, over there at the top is showing the whole of East Africa, am I right? Or is that showing only one country? If we think that way and say without borders within, the border is all existing outside. It's only that much. And I think EAC, you have amazing stuff here. You've got all the stuff. Can we just move the notch? And I think up to us as private sector to say, can we create a sense of urgency here quickly, immediately? Sorry, thank you.
Perform or perish. With that, I would like to have the panelists for our next panel discussion. Mr. Vimal, you're welcome to the panel. Mr. Carrera, Madam Fiona, you're welcome. And Doreen. Our moderator is Flavia.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Okay, good. Well, I am just hopeful that Mr. Vimal Shah has left a little bit what to tell the audience during the panel session, because it looks like we have touched on quite a number of issues and all protocols observed. I am privileged to moderate this session. My name is Flavia Businje, Director Customs and Trade, and I am glad that I have a very able panel members who are captains of the industry, who are pioneers of integration, and who are very well versed with industrialization plus investment promotion. So thank you very much for coming here to be part of this panel. And I would like to just give you 30 seconds just to introduce yourself, and then we can go straight to the panel session. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so humbled to be here in a very well-learned panel. I'm Doreen Dominic. In
My name is Vimal Shah. I'm in East African, Kenya. I'm going to Kenya. But I think the issue is I run factories in Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania with many a lot of local value added exporting to 16 countries.
Good afternoon again. My name is Dennis Carrera. I'm from Rwanda. I'm the Vice Chair of the East African Business Council. I do real estate and hospitality back home and across the region. And been East Africa with East African Business Council for some time. And yep, here to discuss the topic before us and do other things for the council.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Fiona Wall. I'm from Uganda. I'm a director on the board of East African Business Council. I'm a lawyer, so I run a law firm back home. But I'm also the CEO of the League of East African Directors. This is the Institute of Directors for East Africa that deals with boards and directors. And I also run an institute that is working with the COMESA Competition Commission on growing awareness on competition regulation and fair practices within the COMESA region. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are told not to use the word hopeful. I am convinced that the outcome of this panel will take us from the 15% of intra-EAC trade to 40% as per the summit directive. So I want us to look at an East Africa as a fine-tuned machine with each partner state as a vital gear driving a regional collective progress. Imagine a private sector as a turbocharger poised to propel our trade engine into an overdrive. From the vibrant and magnificent Spice Island of Zanzibar, the bustling trade arteries of Kampala, the fertile lands of Burundi, the mineral-laden regions of DRC, to the untapped shores of Somalia, and the dynamic innovation hub of Nairobi and Kigali, all standing tall under the watchful peak of Mount Kilimanjaro, or Kilimanjaro. Each brings its unique strength to this powerful engine. Who wouldn't want a smooth and high-speed ride to the shared prosperity? This is your turn. I would like to recap the discussion that was made by the Honorable SG and the DSG, talking about the framework is in place. The laws, the institutions are all in place. What is it that we do not have? What is it that is stopping us from going ahead? What is it that is stopping us from moving from 14 or 15% to the 40%? So I will start with Mr. Vimal Shah, and I will request you or ask you, what should the East African community do differently to become a highly industrialized region, to tap into the regional, continental, and international market? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Flavia, and good afternoon, everyone. I think it's a fundamental question. I said it earlier, but I'll say it again. Do we really have a vision that we want to have East Africa as one? This vision was existing when we started this. I think East Africa started off 25 years ago. We had this vision, we must unite. Otherwise, I'll say it in language, that we shall remain pygmies in a land where we are pygmies today. And I think as countries, the whole global context, in the global context, what is our GDP? We pride ourselves as having a very heavy GDP or whatever. Look at the global context and look at what's happening. If you just look at the New York, Manhattan, the GDP there is probably the whole 10 times more than Africa. And Africa is the largest. In fact, the maps that you see on the on the whole, wherever you see atlases, are wrong. The real size of Africa is far bigger. The potential is far bigger. So I just think if we want to really become highly industrialized, we've got to do one thing of saying, think East Africa as one borderless place, number one. It's a mindset change. I've got to stop looking at myself as Kenyan or Ugandan or Tanzanian or Rwandese or Burundi or Somali or whatever. And we've got to stop that discrimination. That's the number one thing to do. Secondly, then we say industrialization, because I think a lot of our countries have taken agriculture as the mainstay of our economy because we've done that as agrarian societies, we've done that for too long. Without manufacturing and value added, and if we just keep exporting these raw materials out there, the Western countries or wherever we are, even with Eastern countries, will still be exporting raw materials. We can do it here. I mean, you see the technology out there, that could be eroded. I'm just giving a car example. I'm sure Isuzu, I know you're in the room, but if East Africa said, we want to do EV vehicles here in East Africa, and we want to go from value chain end to end. You've got the lithium, you've got it all in DRC, you've got the batteries. You can start putting factories in every country. One country is doing tires, one country is doing this, and we could actually start making EVs for the whole world from East Africa. But we have to think as East Africa. We have to say, here is a highly industrialized nation called East Africa, and they will produce things where it is possible. So the batteries in DRC, je ne comprends français, monsieur. Ah oui. So I'm just saying we could actually get all that lithium from there, process it into batteries and supply batteries to the world. But what do? We send the lithium out there to somebody in China to make them and then send them back to US or whatever. And we buy them back and say, made in China batteries. All these things are bought from there. And we're still exporting. So I just think that we've got to think as East Africa, let's look at all our competitive advantages. We've talked about comparative advantage and competitiveness, but we've got to stop competing amongst ourselves to say, right now, if they start flour milling, we start flour milling in Kenya, Uganda, and then we stop the intern trade. We start doing various commodity stuff. We've got to get out of that. There's so much more. If DRC was an example, it's got the maximum amount of land available for agriculture, agribusiness, including Tanzania. I think Tanzania has got a huge amount of land. South Sudan, I've been there, and it's amazing land available, but rule of law problems, and that's where the problem is. So I just think that industrialization, seriously, if we think, and we have a workshop here, think East Africa, and you say all rules are the same for everyone in East Africa. I'm sure even roofings will start saying, I'll go everywhere, not to say, I will protect my Ugandan market and let's leave everybody out. So I just think East Africa, number one. Number two, infrastructure is happening, right? But our ports and our border in Uganda having the biggest number, I think it's 900 and 800 something, I saw some figures there. Because they're trying to say we protect our own market against whatever else. Or our CET tariff book is not properly set. Let's reset it. Let's reset the whole tariff book and say, fine, if it's 0, now we have a 4-band tariff, right? 0, 10, 25, 35%. 0 is for raw material not made in East Africa. I think you know the details. But can we now say implement that fully and then see where is the prospect of doing other things? And we could allow a 3-year or 5 year and say, fine, in these 3 or 5 years, asymmetrically, we are improving, and then we go to 0 stays of order. And really, we'll all start collaborating as one market. Then you talk about investment market. I think Dennis talked about airways, opening it up. It should be easy for people to fly in and out of East Africa or within East Africa without a problem. But private sector, and I'm saying one thing now, let's unite the private sector totally together to say, fine, let's collaborate, let's work together. And rather than saying think against each other, think as one country. Lastly, I just want to say digitization has a huge option in making ESC number one. I don't know how many of you use AI now, but AI and ChatGPT is going to overtake a lot of stuff. Unless we are really going to say, let's digitize and open up. Our own people, our own, you call them small SMEs or whatever, that SME can become the David versus the Goliath. And they can become much bigger. But we're stifling SMEs right now. We're stifling our own startups. And I think this is where in East Africa, we need to say, fine, here are the new industries. Let's start putting them together. A lot of the raw materials we export, put them back here. If it's cotton, let's process here into shirts, branded shirts into suits, right? So the whole value chains can be done here. But our system is geared in such a manner that, oh, I want to have duty-free imports into whether it's Rwanda or Burundi because I don't have a textile industry there for this, but East Africa has it, right? And there are many more new industries. Now when you talk about climate change, you talk about digitization, we could actually set up the biggest hubs here in East Africa which cater for the world. We can produce a lot more energy. So transport, infrastructure, logistics becomes unified, becomes most low cost. I was talking to transporters recently and saying from Nairobi, sorry, I'll give you an example lastly before I stop. From Indonesia or Malaysia, if you want to import 1 ton of oil, it costs you $65. From Mombasa, when it
and at a very cheaper price. Then if you look at how do we then enable key value chains such as ECOP, as Stanbic, we are the main funder for the project, and we have deep dive on the value chain for under the ECOP, and we've been able also to open new markets for a couple of clients that are under the value chain of ECOP. Also, there are ongoing conversation around the East African Central Bank to be able to reduce the red tapes. The red tapes meaning different supporting document, different monetary restrictions that are there. Then we have posed to central bank that they have to relook at how they can be able to help or to easen up the transfers to be able to be done. Also, the use of iPay, that is the international payment system. So now, any trader that wants to do any payment, they can be able to do via their mobile. They really don't have to have their laptops with them to enable a swift payment or a swift transfer. Then how do we promote finance for women, especially the mama ntilies, the mama mbogambogas? We have another leg, let alone that as a bank we're making profit, but we have another leg of impact that is called Stanbic Biashara Incubator. So what we do, we have had it for the past a year and a half, and we do accelerate different programs. We do promote women, and our flagship program is called Supplier Development Program, which we always do it annually. Last year we had massive uptake. We did incubate around 100 businesses, and by that we look at the MSMEs, and the rationale between men and women is 60-40. So 60 is women because we're trying to promote them, we are trying to upskill them so as they can also get and leverage from so much opportunity that it's available. So we also do open access to markets to different regions that we have footprint in, but also access to finance. And when we talk about finance, especially for women, I would say they're underprivileged a bit because most of the banks would want collateral, and men, I would say they are the main dominant in terms of having probably a house to pledge through so that they can be able to get loans. But then how do we enable these women to get finance, to get access to finance? We came up with that program called RISE, whereby we are saying women are capable and they need a partner for growth. Who are the partner for growth? It is me and you. All of us, the private sectors, we need to look at our policies. We need to look at how the bank can be able to support. So there are a couple of loans that we have launched over the years that are non-collateral, and women are able to come and apply for them. From our market in Kenya, we have a specific or a tailor-made solution for women called Dada, and it does enable women, and they can lend until 100 million equivalent to Tanzanian shilling without pledging for any collateral. Also, we've been able to de-risk instruments for lending, especially we do partner with most of the DFIs who do support women, such as AFDB has a basket fund for women. We have partnered up with them, and then that will de-risk our lending rate. I mean, we will be able to give them at a cheaper, the loans will be able to give them at a very cheaper rate, because we have a backbone of another partner. We also have been able to relax lending parameters, such as I had alluded, the need to provide landed property so that you can be able to lend, but also a couple of smart loans are available for them, and they can be able to apply on their mobile phones. So digital, if we just do the credit scoring for them, and then they can just be able to apply the loans via their mobile phones. And they don't need to submit the financial assessment, couple of documents, 100 documents, and then you just request for a loan of 20 million. So as a bank, we do really advocate for women development through our Biashara incubator.
Sorry to interrupt, but it's really interesting. Probably we can go one-on-one to see what else you can give, and because we are having an issue of time. Maybe short, just 1 second. Or we proceed. Sorry.
No problem. So just to sum up, I just wanted to give our commitment, of course, as a bank, as Stanbic Bank. We are here to support, we are here to collaborate. We don't really need to reinvent the wheel. There are so many reports that have been done. We have done a trade barometer report last year, and it is in our website. Everybody can access it. And we're also going to launch one in October this year. So it really does tell on what we have done on traders, on what are the opportunities, and on what challenges we can work together as private sector. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think you can see why the private sector was asking the Honorable SG to meet them within 90 days, 1 day in 90 days. So you can see there is a lot to talk about. So Honorable SG, I think this should be a basis to consider the request. Thank you very much, Doreen. That was really insightful. You have actually talked about a number of projects that you have for women, RISE, Dada in Kenya, partnership with ADB, and the African-China engagement, plus also the borderless uptake on the way we can use our local currencies to trade. That is really very interesting. Allow me to move to a slightly different sector that is actually in the area of trade, but is not directly, but it really brings a lot of dollars to the community. I will turn to Mr. Carrera Dennis. We are in the tourism sector, and we are looking at promoting the East African community as a single destination for tourists and hospitality industry. So we would like to hear from you on what can be improved to make the sector in tourism competitive. Thank you.
Hello. Yeah. Let me first of all that because I'm time, you don't cut me short. I may take advantage of that. Yeah, but thank you for the talk. But before I delve into the topic, let me first make one observation to what my colleague there said. You talked about women and challenges to access to loans. But be careful which women you're talking about. When you said to women of Rwanda, because the women of Rwanda have automatic 50% ownership of every property. So, by law. So I can never register. So those of you who may consider getting married to Rwanda, please karibu. Because every property by law must be between man and wife is the first one on the list. On the top, Fiona saw a wall, and then wall is next. So be careful which women, but you may want to borrow the example. Then, Honorable Secretary General, allow me to draw your attention on a few quick ones outside the tourism aspect I've been asked to speak about. There are certain things that I think are key. First of all, it will be difficult for me to hide my happiness today. Having met a Secretary General who I think, I can see automatically, science, body science speaks to what will work and what will not. I know for a fact, we lost, there's a time in this office that we lost a good 5 years. Lost with the private sector. We had one of your who we never met for 5 years at all. And brings a big challenge when this office remains a political office, the office of the General. We requested, and I would like us to suggest that we carry the same request, that we should see a General hired as an expert, in our view, hired as an expert who qualifies to run a certain program, pretty much as the European Commission. And you have a commissioner for European Union who delivers 5 years. These are the benchmarks, these are the KPIs, deliver or fail, renew or start. So we carried this recommendation to a seminar, actually, to review the treaty of. I don't know if you have been briefed about this. We went to Kigali and requested the president to host us, and all ministers from the region came. We met in Kigali with the private sector. We suggested several aspects of what we can do to review the treaty establishing East Africa, East African community. Because I'm sure you have definitely observed, as same as your Secretary General, some of the articles of the current treaty are obsolete, out of step with reality completely. So we had this seminar in Kigali with all ministers of EAC. We had recommendations, but when we came out, people who are afraid of change from different countries started saying, no, this seminar was actually not allowed. It was called somewhere, we are not informed. Yet every minister from member states was there. Honorable Secretary General, can we kindly rekindle this discussion to revisit the treaty as is? Some provisions of it are obsolete. They don't speak to realities of today. And we take it forward. One of my recommendations, I was in that meeting, I suggested, can we have a form of SG who is like a commissioner for European Union? And we hire you because of your expertise, and you don't, because going by the political appointments, I told you, we had an appointee, political appointee, who did not meet us for 5 years. Not even us only, even his. So we had a good 5 years, West EAC. You can imagine. So that's to capture. The other one is information. Hello? Yeah. The other one is about dissemination of information that Fiona commented on a little bit. We talked of a YouTube university as to how we can get information. Mamas at the borders, believe me, all of you have gone to borders. You ought to have seen these mamas praying. They are listening to church music and prayer music on their radios. Now, my question, and we should be disappointed as business people, how can churches operate and spread information faster than we, the business community? How? How? Because you've seen house boys, every house girls, everybody, they are praying. Oh, there's a preacher, pastor so-and-so, pastor so-and-so. All crooks are pastors. And they spread a lot of information on YouTube. And people are fixated on those prayers. Why don't we send the same message? So how can these fake pastors spread more information than we who actually gain from the businesses? So there's a weakness, Fiona, we need to address. YouTube, by the way, everybody watches YouTube. Everybody, at the border, they watch. You listen to the songs they are praying. I think even out of desperation, they resort to God because you are condemned to poverty. You are condemned to being an SME or MSME. So you just listen to the word of God. And they are listening to funny crook around calling himself a sort of pastor. So now back to the actual focus of what we're doing. I think, first of all, before we even go into tourism, we need to redefine ourselves, for ourselves, by ourselves. We need to redefine ourselves. The thing of business as usual doesn't work. Let me tell you, Honorable Secretary General and colleagues, you have also commented the other day, all these good stories about Rwanda. This has worked. Oh, look at this. Oh, look at this. Do you think we have two heads than other people? We don't carry two heads. We have 2 legs, 2 heads, just like everybody in the region. But what has worked? What we did in Rwanda, we made a decision, all of us, that let us redefine ourselves. We can't be defined by dirtiness, being untidy, dirt. So we say, we don't litter. We stopped. Simple. We have decided to be clean. We have decided to stop corruption. We have decided. When I drove on humps last night, I was so bothered to drive 4 hours in humps. I'm jumping like a kangaroo. I'm not supposed to be jumping. Come on. I should drive on a smooth road and the camera should capture a high speed. Simple. These are decisions that nations make. You know? So for us as East Africans and as business community, let's redefine ourselves and tell ourselves, and those who look at us, by the way, we are a new brand now. We are a new brand, actually. We've decided to do better. We decided that South Sudan, DRC, Kenya, Uganda, we are all now going to look afresh. Otherwise, we are going to be stuck. Now, that takes me to the exact point. Tourism in the region is a key thing. Tourism is possibly, in Rwanda, it is the highest forex earner for the country. For Tanzania, I don't know how much it contributes, but looking at the numbers of tourists here, it must be a significant contribution. Kenya, same thing. I was telling people last night as we came, tourism has also changed form, unless hamuangalie nyinyi wanayo links and there's hotels and stuff. Tourism has changed form. Wazungu, because of hard conditions the other side, they are no longer coming to see animals and what. No. It's now coming to look for fresh air, fresh fruits, to kukaa vizuri and extend your time. Because their time is polluted, I mean the environment is polluted, it is harsh, the climate is bad. Now, that creates opportunities for us. The harsh environment of these people is an opportunity for us on this side. But we sleep, we don't see it. What did we do as a region that aimed at tapping into the tourism sector and profitably do so? There was discussion from the Northern Corridor arrangements, the coalition of the willing at that time, which succeeded, by the way, and was also halted at some point. But I think it's being revived. There was introduction of the single tourism visa. And the call was sent through all the member states. Can we have a single tourism visa? So that any European or Asian or American or whatever coming pays once at entry point. Just pay once. Even if we make the visa 400 and it is multiple entry, just let him pay once. It's okay. But imagine this person will say, and convince this person, in Serengeti, you're going to see this. When you cross Rwanda, you will see the gorillas. When you go to Kenya, you will go dance a bit, and you know, there are those other attractions in the evening, you'll feel good. When you go to Burundi, there's good fish. When, you know, so this tourist, I tell you, will spend 2 other months, draw his card until the card is reading red. All the money will stay here. So that's what we did now. There was resistance to the single tourism visa. Until today, only 3 countries apply it. My fellow Tanzanians, including acting ED. Nyinyi mnafikiria nini? Muko wapi? You know, these are the objective things we need to. So the single tourism visa, Madam Secretary General, is one of the things that works. If the visa is paid at once, we discuss the mechanism, which is still in place. When the entry point is, say, Arusha, for any tourist, the money is paid there at once. If it is, say, $200, internally, the board arrangements know how to distribute these monies, transfer this to 10 to each country, 20 to the one who has produced the paper, and it is working. So why can't we have the other countries join? I think this should be on your agenda. Next time you are visiting the head of state of Tanzania, muombe, some of these things need kuomba. If you want to call a few of us, if you want to just fight legally, for us to just fight in different ways, we shall go on this. But this thing brings money. What else does tourism change? You know that our region has the best climate, best foods, compared to the rest of Africa. South Africa has winter and summer. North Africa is the same. Only East Africa has tropical climate throughout, tropical fruits, organic mbogas, you know, whenever we go food, everything is fine here. So why don't we tap into this? With that kind of resources that we have, we need to know that let's tap in different forms of tourism. Because tourism, first of all, kuna kuja kuona wanyama, then there are those coming to enjoy themselves. We have all the beauties around, they can come to, and these days, it's not even one way. There will be men who come to look at our women around. Apologies to women, no offense. But there will also be women there, I'm sure you've seen the trends, who are actually coming to look at the boys here and have a change of, you know, these things. This is how it is working now. Yeah, several of these, you know that how difficult it was for a black man to marry a Mzungu Today is very different. Masais have Wazungus here, what? So it has changed. Now, this brings nothing other than money. Other than money. So I think somebody commented at the border crossings. When we increased border crossings, I'll give you figures. Sometime back after we introduced the single tourism visa and the cross border with one ID, the numbers, you know very well, from Katuna border, Katuna crossing to Uganda, the numbers shifted from 4,000 people daily to 48,000 daily. And every person was crossing with cash in the pocket. So all these tourists coming to the region are carrying some money which must be spent here. So tourism has a key role to play in what we're doing, and we should really commonize it. Now, the other beauty of it is now we can look at different forms of tourism. There's social tourism. People need to look at the beauties, enjoy this and that. Then there is religious tourism. I want to give you examples, those of you who love Jesus Christ so much like me. How many of you have been to Israel? How many of you have gone to Jerusalem? And how did you get your past Jerusalem? How many people did you see? I have been, and you get amazed with everybody from China end to Australia to whichever part of this world is struggling to go to see where Jesus was caught. Whether it's true or not, I don't know, but I was told the man was caught here. You know? And emotionally and spiritually, we are all crowding there. There was such a line. Chinese want to see where Jesus was caught and where he was crucified, and we go to his tomb. Do you know how much money they are collecting? Buses and buses are full. So tourists go in 100, 200,000. People are listed, they don't even have space. Religious tourism is a big honor. Today, in our own countries here, we have so many interesting things. The other day I was telling our own people in Rwanda, there's a site called Chibeho, where somebody saw Virgin Mary. True or not, I don't know. But it is believed. Now, people line up to come to see where Virgin Mary appeared. But weirdly for us, you know, poor blacks who don't know how to make money. In Tel Aviv, or rather in Jerusalem, when we were there, they sell us little water called holy water, then water anointment oil. Then all these, who knows where that anointment oil is made? We just buy there because you think you're attached to Jesus. Or in Pesangap, they sell thousands of liters of anointing oil. And we're happy to pay. Oh, this one. Then this cross is, yes, it could be Bidco oil, yes. You have Lake Victoria here. Look at that blessed oil. Why don't we bless Victoria water and say, this one, you take a bottle of this. This is how it works, yes. Because, I mean, honestly, the water we buy in Jerusalem, I took interest in looking at the business aspect around Jerusalem. It is a lot to secure a hotel in Tel Aviv on your way to Jerusalem. You need to have booked at the high peak season. You need to have booked like 3 months ago. And the hotel room goes to $400, $500. This is what we need to tap into. But we are here, we are comfortable to go to spend money in Jerusalem. But Virgin Mary appeared in Chibeho. I'm sure in Tanzania something else happened here. Why don't you create religious tourism? So religious tourism, social tourism, cultural tourism, even between us. We do not know the potential that exists in the Tanzanian culture, the Rwandan culture. Why don't we do this? These are things we need to tap into. But poor we're here contented by being nothing. But how we were the other day, it's we are now and we shall be. Can we afford to do that? So the more reason SG, I say, can we try and rebrand ourselves? We can't be the same. And that's where sometimes I agree with the new thing of the generation Z. Think different. Because the aspirations are different, the incomes are different, what we see is different. Returns from tourism. Let me tell you the wide range of people who benefit from tourism. One, the airlines are benefiting. Earlier we were saying they should open up space. The more you open up space, the more flights are flying back and forth at a low rate, the bigger the returns. We have advanced this debate, and kindly, Honorable SG, I am happy to go behind you, carry your bag wherever you will want, until this aspect of airline domestication of airlines in East Africa is achieved. Honestly, of course I will not be alone. Fiona will go with you, Vimalu shall go. Let's achieve let's achieve domestication of airspace. All these tourists, I tell you, will fly to Arusha, then in the evening, let me fly to Kigali, then later, you know what, let's go to Zanzibar. Then, you know, they will stay in the region spending their money. So airlines will get money. Hotels will be full. Tel Aviv, I told you, there's no room in Tel Aviv. You don't get a room unless you are booked so many days ahead. So it will change out. Now, of course, every hotel, you know what it does. It has employees, it has suppliers. The Kinabama you were saying, whoever is dealing with mboga, fruits, what. I have a business in Kigali. When I was building, I thought I was doing a real estate project. But I didn't know, little did I know that I'm actually creating opportunities for suppliers. Whenever I turn up at Kigali Heights in the morning, I look at the whole chain of suppliers, and I'm amazed. I'm like, but I didn't intend to make business for these people. But the suppliers, eggs, and nanasi, what, blah, name it. So, and these are all sources of income for our people. So, people make money through tourism in different ways. So you have airlines, you have hotels, you have hotel suppliers, you have drivers. Let me tell you a pathetic one, Honorable SG. Did you know, or have you been briefed, that when tourists, and this must be addressed with Tanzanian government, do you know that drivers for these tourist tour companies, when they reach the border, there has been a problem, I don't know if it is solved now. Drivers are told, park your car, let a Tanzanian driver enter. But it's like telling Madam so-and-so, leave your bag here, let the other lady on the other side carry your bag. Because somebody's car, honestly, you don't want to give, even if you are the owner of truck of those cars. Do you want other drivers? You don't know them. You don't know how they drive. You don't. And this has been a problem for long. So the tour drivers are asked to drop those tourists either at the border there or coordinate with the other company, which is again competing with ourselves. Either company, so a tour company in Arusha here may not bring people all through here, go to Nairobi, go to Busia, go to Queen Elizabeth, then drive to Kigali. No, they are blocked at different borders. So it's a silly, I call it silly, sorry for the harsh language. It's a silly NTB that we need to address because it's an income stream.
All right.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
I will agree with you.
Yes.
Let me leave it at that. But there's enormous potential. Tourism is our key source. So I would call on everybody, on your countries, and let's take this as a serious topic, kwa sababu inaleta pesa.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I will actually not, I will not even summarize what he has said because he was very clear. I am the only person who has the microphone.
Sorry, somebody's saying that.
I am the only one who is allowed to talk until I allow.
The One Area Network? Yes. I heard from the reports that...
Yeah, we are working.
You're working on it?
Everyone, Burundi and I think the SG mentioned that the remaining countries have joined the network. Oh.
I think again from what SG guided us earlier and what our wish was, this thing of I think it is working. I think you also said it's probably working. Remove probabilities, let's go to things that work and let's tell the summit what has failed. I was just thinking, can we also have a matrix that has, at a certain point, after so many months, we tell the head of state, this has failed. So we take it off. We take it off the list of the to-do list. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. The only thing I'll say is that we need to make a deliberate effort to change. It will, everything that we have said will fall into place. Thank you very much for the very useful discussion that we have had. I will request that for memory purposes, I take a photo with the panelists. Oh. Yes, okay, sorry.
No, I think you've done a great job, Flavia, but Flavia is so kind. She smiles in order to let you stop, and you think she's just encouraging you. But I think great conversations from the panelists. There's so much I've picked from each of them. I think it's, I'd like to maybe comment on a couple of issues, like the treaty. Private sector, there's an opportunity. Recently, we had our ministers' retreat, and one of the issues that has been there, even in previous discussions, is about the amendment of the treaty. And I got a very long letter from the East African Law Society condemning me for not involving them in the amendment of the treaty. So I think it's important we put it on record that the treaty hasn't been amended, but there are, it will take place, because as you've all rightly said, there are places in which it doesn't speak to our current realities, including just basic things like number of countries and all that. So there is an opportunity for the East African Law Society and indeed the private sector to pay a very keen eye on this review process, because what we normally ask, and this was also my response to the East African Law Society, that inputs to any process that the EAC is doing are at national level, at partner state level. So it is a question of having deliberate engagement with your EAC ministries back in your partner states and finding out what are the issues. You see, there's so much we can do, because unfortunately we've not had a chance to tell our story as a secretariat. And if we were to do so, it would take a whole lot of days because of the various issues around staffing challenges, operational challenges, financial challenges. This team that you see here makes do with very little, really, and they are a great team to be able to put all these things out against the conditions. So what I'm basically saying is that we cannot do everything. If we have said the partner states are leading in national consultations, the EABC has to stay a step ahead, and all the other interested organizations. The issues you brought out about ESCJ and all that, those are really pertinent issues that need to come to the table. So very cliche but famous quote: ask not what the EAC shall do for you, but what you can do for it, and that should guide us. I really liked your passion around tourism, Vice Chair, and you can sell. You're clearly those people who can sell ice to an Icelander, because you're very passionate. And perhaps to add on, in terms of the tourism, we have to rejig our minds to think about, to reset what we knew, what our forefathers taught us. So how about green medicine as tourism? You know, herbal. You know, invite people to come here for a little mitishamba dose of this and that, you know, and so that is something to add there, the cultural tourism and so on. So I like the idea that we need to reset our thinking. I think, Vimal, you've said it very well. I am 100% in agreement that, yes, YouTube is out there and we cannot ignore it. Even as a strategy, new media is something we can't run away from. It's a growing space. I think Vimali would be very well placed to even tell us about moving the EAC to the... So are we even doing forward futuristic planning for the EAC when we cannot even achieve what we committed 20 or 15 years ago? So when the world is moving to Bitcoin and, like you said, AI and all that, we are still thinking about the currency, you know, and yet the world has moved on to cryptocurrency, you know, and mobile transaction. So a lot going on. Now for this lovely lady from Stanbic, remind me your name, I don't know. Doreen, yes, Doreen. Now, this story of yours is even personal to me. The fact that I have accounts in Kenya and Tanzania by the same banks and I cannot transact is driving me crazy. You know, that Stanbic Kenya and Stanbic Tanzania can't talk to each other. That KCB Kenya, KCB Tanzania can't talk to each other. And for me to make any currency exchanges, I have to move dollars, like in physical sense, or do RTGS. The banking sector should talk to each other. We need to be serious about these simple things. If you already look at the international institutions that are domiciled here and the number of people who are from different states, the basic need, very basic need is interoperability. I just need to be able to look at my phone and make transfers. That's the starting point. It can't be that, and actually I bank with Stanbic, so this is very personal. So I listened to you there talking about all this. I wanted to send some money the other day on RTGS, and the cost itself was 7,000. You see, so there's a problem. There's a big problem, and we need to discuss around that. So the realities in the room are present, and I'm sure the shoe is biting. I saw the gentleman there obviously has an issue with the one network area. You know, it's good we didn't give him the microphone because I think he was going to burn it down. So it's in Auma. That's what we say in many places. So I've loved the conversations. They're very frank. I'm happy that everyone is seeing that this is a problem that's bigger than the Secretariat. I'm taking up on the offers and already thinking about even how we can constitute various delegations to this meeting. Let's keep the conversation going. But as Vimal said, if we don't want to move a step forward, maybe do we fold up? You know, like, what do we want to do? We can't stagnate. We have to have some inertia. We can't talk. For me, I think it's critical. To me, that's a question in the room. How do we move it forward? Because I'm at a point where you feel like everyone's trying to do the right thing, but how do we pull it all together? So I think those are the questions that are there. But great conversations and a great panel. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Honorable SG. Thank you very much, great panel. Thank you very much, great panel. I don't know. Yeah, I have to thank them. They were very kind to me. Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much. And I will stand in the middle here. Yes.
Okay, Tanzania Cigarette Public Limited Company. Group EAC, we are requesting the board member to actually represent them. Okay, Tanzania Breweries Limited Company. German Development Corporation. GIZ. EABC Secretariat, can you come for group photo? Yes, you do. EABC, please, quickly. Secretariat.
Followed by the EAC staff. EAC staff. EAC staff. We shall have the EABC board alone with this SG. EABC board members can move forward. So that, EABC board members? Yala, thank you. Yala, members of Yala, can you join? The board members? Thank you very much. So our lunch, we're having at a Sabasaba restaurant. Hope everyone has a coupon. And they're soon closing lunch at 3, so we can move. We can get the elections to Sabasaba restaurant, can we get directions? We can get out as we move on. Thank you so much. So we're coming back for an, yes? Yes, we are coming back. So having a lunch for an hour, then we come back for the next panel discussion, then a one-to-one with the SG. Thank you so much. So can we move to lunch before the close?